Hi everybody, this is Jack. Thanks for stopping by. We had quite the experience quite a few years ago, and we were, the wife and I were the only ones living at our house here. And it was a Calder fire, they called it. It was a big, big fire. I don't know where you're at, but it was like all the way from Placerville, California. It went all the way to Lake Tahoe. Just on the outskirts of Lake Tahoe, they finally got it out. It was big, hot. My son and his family were living in a little suburb not too far from here, and it hit and it burned their house. They lost everything they had on it, their cars and most of their car, everything. So it was a terrible fire. And it started just not too far from us. We'd go to the top of the road, our road here, coming into the house, and you could see it. And it was, when it first started, we'd go in every day. And we looked, and it was, I think, about a mile and a half, 2 miles away. I'm not quite sure, but somewhere in that range. And it had, a column of smoke, and at the time, it was about 40 acres at the end of the first day. And we get a lot of fires up here. It's kind of way of life, and they're usually put out, without any issue. We keep an eye on it, though. But this one, I didn't hear any airplanes going by, for the water drops or the retardant drops. I didn't hear any bulldozers because, we're close enough where we could hear that from when you're up in the mountains and on top of the ridge. So the next day, it was getting bigger. And it was, I think they said at the end of the second day, it was about 300 acres. And I didn't hear anything after that. I still didn't hear any dozers or planes or anything. It was just burning. So the third day, it was getting pretty large, really, really large. And at the end of that day, it was 600 and something acres. Well, anyway, that night, my son's home was in a little subdivision. It was about 6 miles away, I think. Or maybe it was a little more than that. It might have been about 8 miles away as a crow flies, I think. I'm not sure. But overnight, it went all that way from where the fire started, and went all the way to the subdivision and took out about 410 houses, I think it was. Leveled them. My son had an aluminum trailer, and it turned aluminum to like water, and it was just running down the ground. It dried like that. And so it was a big hairy one, and it went on, I'm not sure, but I think it went on about 2 weeks. Not positive on that, but it was it was devastating. It was a big fire. And so they came, and I'm the only one, of course, we're the only ones living out here. My grandson at that time was living on our property. We built a rental house for him, and him and his, he was down there. So we had the three of us, and we're it. For 5-6 miles away, there was nobody else. So we kept an eye on it, and so we had to evacuate, and because it wasn't that far away. It was only about 1.5 miles. And as crow flies one night, it could, and it was getting nervous. I was getting really nervous because, you go to bed at night and, 6 to 8 hours of sleep, you wake up, it could be right in your front yard. So we ended up, we had to evacuate, and my other son, my second son, he had rather than rent a hotel, he had a, pretty good sized house and an extra room or whatever. So we stayed down there. And it was really the first time I've ever been evacuated from our house. And at the time, they had all the roads blocked off. You couldn't even get to our house or anything. They got the cops, shut off all the roads getting up to our house again. And there was no way, so we were, I think about 2 weeks, we were at my son's house. And there was no way to find out if your house was still there or not. You didn't know exactly where the fire went, because they were following on the news. They would follow the main pathway, where it was going, but it was widening out, and it was scary. and realize that pretty much all your possessions are going to be gone. Well, we had a lot of muscle car collection that we hauled out to a shop we had to get those, because they were worth quite a bit of money. So we got those out, and that was about all. And it was just a horrible thing. But anyway, it took about 2 weeks for them to get it out. And like I said, when you drove around looking at, trying to get home, you talked to the cops who had the road blocked, and they was, I don't know anything, just wouldn't let us in, which I don't blame them. And so it turned out that our house and all our property was good, was okay. And I remember it was we were watching the news all day, every day, and they finally said that our area was open to go home, and we didn't know if it was going to be there or not, and I've got garages and skid steer and tractors. We got all this stuff at rental houses there, chest places, and we had no idea. We didn't know if it was going to be there or not. So it was. We started heading up our main road, from below, goes up about 8-10 miles to get to our main road to the house, and we were nervous, but we kept going up, and there was no burned trees yet, and we went all the way up and turned down our road, and it was okay. Went into our house or pulled up to the house, and it was fine. You could go from the top of our road basically, and you could see the burn scar. It missed our house probably by a couple miles maybe, or something like that. And I know we pulled up and got out. The wife started crying, and I was emotional. Their house was still there, because for 2 weeks we didn't know if we had a house to go to. So it worked out good, but that was something I'll never forget. It's very sobering. It brings it back to reality that everything we had, we could have lost. And fire insurance where we live, I could have built the house. It was so expensive. I could have built the house in cash for about 3 years of fire insurance would cost us, and it was so very, very, very expensive. So that's why we didn't have it. And most people have places out here don't, So that's why we didn't have it. But and I don't now. It's even worse than that. Okay, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed that little off-the-cuff thing here. Thanks a lot. Bye.